Hey everyone, Reid Henrichs with Valley Ridge. Today's video, we're going to talk about how to retake the Second Amendment. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm out here with JJ, and he's one of our guys out here that helps with classes and been helping since the beginning. He's been in a couple other videos of mine, and he's here. The reason that I want to do this video is because he has done a lot of work to help restore the Second Amendment in the state of Illinois, which is a pretty highly restrictive place when it comes to the Second Amendment. I know a lot of you out there are frustrated. Second Amendment's under attack every day in every state across this country, at the state level, federal level. So JJ is going to talk about his experience and how he's done a lot of work the last year or two to help bring back the Second Amendment, and he's been very successful in the state of Illinois in getting a lot of this stuff halted, getting a lot of stuff going back on the offensive for it. So in this video, he's going to share his experience, and we're going to talk about the importance of the Second Amendment and how you can do your part as a citizen of this representative republic. So JJ, man, I appreciate you being here.
Glad to be here as always.
You guys may not have heard what's going on in Illinois. 102 counties.
Correct.
We're currently up to what, 63 or 64 counties. Think about that. 63 or 64 counties out of 102 that have become havens for the Second Amendment.
Illinois is a blue state by the overall voting patterns, but there's really 4 counties that control that. I think in one of the last elections there were maybe 10 counties that went one way and the other 92 that went the other 92 that went the other way.
Yeah.
So, then you look at New York State, Pennsylvania, Colorado, other states all across the country where the urban centers are very much different, completely the opposite of what the rural population and the traditional population is.
How did you get the ball rolling on that with other people, with not only government representatives, but with state's attorneys? And how did you do that? What can people out there watching this video do in their home state to get this ball of wax going?
Right. At the state level, we are outnumbered and almost powerless because, again, they do have a supermajority in both houses. They have the governorship, and they've been very vocal and active about trying to, put all kinds of restrictions on us. I mean, a whole gamut of it. The gun sanctuary movement was kind of the catalyst of this in a way. Kicked off about a year ago. Iroquois and Effingham County in eastern and south central Illinois passed resolutions, and these resolutions of the 64 counties that have passed do vary somewhat. But it was individuals and even a couple states' attorneys that went to the county board members and said, look, this legislation that's being proposed, they're talking about seizing constitutionally protected personal property from private citizens without due process and taking it from them at the risk of government agents coming to their home and seizing them. So, about as unconstitutional a thing as you can get. And the state's attorney there, Denton Aud, who's very sharp, young guy, not really a gun guy, or not really a gun guy per se, but definitely an outdoorsman.
Open to it.
Yeah. And he was a reasonable person that was willing to discuss things, which is key. He moved to put it in without modification. They voted on it. It was on the ballot with 17 other counties. So 18 counties had ballot referendums in the November 2018 election. All 18 passed by an average of nearly 80% of the voters.
Heck yeah, that's it.
The county board resolutions are valuable, but the referendums were a clear indication and a very strategic thing that once the citizens showed exactly how they were going to view this, that was a strong message to police chiefs, sheriffs, and state's attorneys that, hey, this is 80% of your counties are radically opposed, will come out and vote against this. Excuse me. But what do voters also make up? Jury pools.
Oh yeah, this is key. This is key right here.
So once they're very clear that 80% of their potential jury pool, if they convene a jury, if they charge somebody with a criminal act relating to firearms, 80% of their jury pool is going to say, get that out of here. Then how do you expect that to go once it goes to court? So nobody, I won't say nobody, but really there wasn't a movement for people to take that to its next step. And what I did was, like you asked me to talk about, I hate talking about stuff like that, but what was done was that I picked 3 state's attorneys who I knew at least casually. My own county of Williamson, I had met the state's attorney, didn't really know him well. Very sharp guy, a populist, willing to listen, willing to entertain rational discussion. Denton Ott over in White County, a very solid guy who I'd interacted with just there, didn't really know him. And David Searby, the state's attorney over in Perry County, Illinois, who is a gun guy, loves to shoot, he's a maniac, got his own range, but a very pro-Second Amendment guy. But I rolled out a 3-page, very Illinois-focused paper to them stating the cause for nullification, prosecutorial nullification.
What does that mean? Because a lot of people may not, I mean, you've been in law enforcement for almost 30 years.
Right.
So a lot of people, retired Illinois State Trooper, but a lot of people don't know what nullification actually means. So maybe talk people through what that prosecutorial nullification is.
Okay. It varies somewhat by state, but typically the prosecutors in Illinois, they're called state's attorneys, have the right by their office to either charge and prosecute someone or to essentially nullify or dismiss those cases. So it's up to them to decide whether this is something worthy of prosecution or whether that's not anything they're going to go with. So what it was rolled out as was like, look, this is the seminal civil rights issue of our times for a lot of us, okay? And state's attorneys are obligated more so to do justice, not necessarily to gain convictions.
Right.
So, that's one of the things they do teach them in law school is like, what is the just thing to do? And once they started taking a look at that, and it took a couple months of back and forth discussions, again, rational discussions about factual things by someone who had skin in the game. In White County, I'm a property owner. I have a little farm there. Williamson County, I'm a resident voter taxpayer, okay? And in other counties, the guys that have rolled this out are either residents, have some family history, property owners, business owners, things like that. So they have a vested interest in what goes on in those counties. And when they're presented that, like, look, take a look at this. All we're asking you to do is uphold your oath. With police officers, it's a little bit more complicated because their oath is to the constitutions of the U.S., the states, also to enforce the laws of the U.S. and states in a lot of instances, but those are often in direct conflict.
Yes, often state and city ordinances are in direct violation of the Constitution, and that's where people's principle and character and morals come into play. Do you want to uphold unjust laws and be on the wrong side of history, or do you want to be a part of the continuing American Revolution, which is individual liberty, limited government? Do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to be some stupid minion just following orders?
Right. It's not an abstract theory. Back in the 90s, whenever I was still a young trooper, the Federal Department of Justice and other agencies had proposed and were carrying out, pardon, I'm not the linguist, carrying out warrantless searches of any public housing unit for all firearms. They were doing it in certain areas, not where I was at, long way away, but they were conducting these. And right when it got started, I went into my operations lieutenant, very seasoned officer, very sharp guy. He had an open door policy, knocked on the door. Hey, LT, you got a second? Sure, what's up? Maybe you heard about what's going on with the warrantless searches of public housing. Yeah, I have. I don't like it. Okay. So we're up front, LT. With all due respect, and I mean that, if I'm ordered to take part in that, I will refuse to comply with that order. His eyes kind of popped open because a 25-year lieutenant wasn't used to, some, young punk trooper that actually had hair at the time on his head, not on his chin, of telling him that he wasn't going to follow an order. And he, his eyes popped open. He thought about it for a second. Wheels turned for about 10 seconds, and he said, I agree with you. Let's just hope it doesn't come to that around here.
Sure.
I said, to take that one step further, sir, that's the most probably egregious violation of civil rights that I've seen in my time. If I witness other officers conducting those raids like that without any semblance of due process, without any warrants, nothing, that would be related to protecting their rights, then I will arrest them on site. I have the statutes. You look it up, and violation of rights, conspiracy to violate civil rights, they're federal statutes. You've taken an oath. All we're asking is that you uphold that oath and protect the rights of the citizens. So it's time to decide, are you going to, uphold government at any cost and any duly enacted law, which some of these have said, we will enforce the duly enacted law. In fact, the current director of my old agency, the Illinois State Police, said we will enforce whatever laws are passed. Like, okay, then, you know, get out the fire hoses in Birmingham, Alabama, grab the German Shepherds, and let's start attacking people. You know, if you're going to do it, then, you know, step up and, you know, give it a shot, dude, because I don't think you're going to like the outcome. But again, if you want to be part of that, then you're going to be part of that. But if you want to really uphold your oath, let's take a look at what the rights of the citizens are. And with the state's attorneys, again, the three that I initially rolled it out to, they looked at it. It took a couple months of discussion. And then at a public forum, the state's attorney of my county stood up at a public mic. He wasn't part of the forum, and said, my name is Brandon Zanotti. I'm the state's attorney of Williamson County, Illinois, where we're at right now. Just so you know, if this legislation, and he named them off, if they are enacted, then those acts will not be prosecuted in this county.
That took some courage.
And in some people's minds, the irony of it is, he's a Democrat.
That's and that's the thing. There's downstate Democrats in Illinois that are diametrically opposed to what Chicago Democrats want to do, and so this is irrespective of political party, and that's the unbelievable thing about this. And I think that's a major turning point in this debate, that you have a Democrat state's attorney on a public forum saying that he will not prosecute unconstitutional laws.
Correct.
And only because, and how many interactions had you had with him at his office or in?
We'd met a couple times just in passing at functions and things, but, you know, wasn't a personal friend or anything like that. I knew a couple guys in his office that I kind of bounced some ideas off of. They floated the idea to him. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to you about that. And we had, you know, mostly online, or not online, but like emails back and forth. And he asked some very pointed questions, a lot of them because he's not a gun guy like Denton. They had specific questions about, you know, firearm function, what's, you know, how many are out there, different things like that, what's in common use, going back to some of the Heller decision language, and then came right out and did it. You know, the other two, boom, as soon as Brandon came out and made his statement, they were like, yep, we're right in there with you too. And Denton over in White County took that initial proposal that I wrote up, condensed it down to 2 pages, threw in some relevant case law, sent it out to every state's attorney in Illinois, all 102 counties. There have been, at this point, I believe, 12 county state's attorneys who have openly said we will not prosecute for unconstitutional firearms laws. There are at least 24 others who have privately said so, but don't want to get it out there in the public domain.
But they are willing to do that.
They will not prosecute. A couple of them have made gone even farther for public statements. I know Brandon has said, not in my county, not on my watch. Many sheriffs, many police chiefs, many individual officers have come out in support of that. We're not going to enforce that stuff. And also several of them have the relevant statutes on hand that if they witness officers or agents at any level of law enforcement who are attempting to enforce or prosecute unconstitutional legislation, that they will arrest on site for violation of rights, conspiracy to violate civil rights.
See, this is the plan, and the point of this video, if you get a lot out of it, the point of this video is that it took a retired you should be enjoying your daughter's lives. You should be enjoying your retirement. You should be going on vacations. You've earned that retirement after nearly 30 years in law enforcement, and instead you're out there fighting for the Second Amendment every single day. I mean, I can't tell how many phone calls we've had together talking about this as the process bounced a lot of ideas.
Have a lot of talks right here at this fire pit.
Oh yeah,
sounds in the background.
That's it. And I mean, and it's a process, and see, it doesn't just happen overnight. This is, I mean, over a year process.
Right.
And I remember the first time he bounced the idea off me. Hey, man, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Let's talk about, you know, the Constitution. Let's talk about the Bill of Rights. Let's talk about what the Second Amendment is. And I mean, you did all the grunt work, going out there, making it happen, and talking to these state's attorneys, talking to these law enforcement officials. But this is the template. Get involved with your state's attorney. Get involved with your county board. I mean, that's crucial. You've got to go to your county board, find out when they meet, go in there and get these ideas going in their minds. Because outside of these major cities, this is what America is. Yeah. I mean, this is what the United States is. It's the meat and the potatoes.
Even down to the township level, like in Delaware, it doesn't have a strong county type government. They're doing it at the township level really well. the huge chunks of New Mexico, Colorado.
Overwhelming majority.
The sheriffs in Colorado, in Oregon, it's all, even in Tennessee, you know, about 70 miles that way, there's a couple counties that have declared themselves sanctuaries just
for no reason. They just want to preempt it. And I think that people really need action points here. They want to know, I'm in California, I'm in New York, I'm in Maryland, I'm in a place where it's so rabidly anti-gun. You're going to find outside of the big cities, they're not that way. Outside of the big cities is the true America. And not to say everybody in the cities is, you know, an oddball.
We just had some here.
Yeah, we just had many here in class, you know. So
one guy from Hawaii that's getting things done out there, a couple guys from New York, Mississippi, Florida, all that.
Yeah, all from all across the country. So you're not powerless, but you do have to put some effort. That means, guys, we can't be watching the game. You know, we can't be entertained during our off time. You're going to have to put in the work, and that may mean time away from your family. That may mean that in your days that you're to the time that you're not on work, maybe you are doing this. But you need to get with your county board. You need to get with your sheriff. You need to get with your state's attorney. And you know what? You'd be surprised how many of them are open to these ideas. Now, let's go to the law enforcement side of things. I'm former law enforcement, you're retired law enforcement. Most of our friends are current or retired law enforcement. And so not everybody in law enforcement supports this crap either. They're not going to go enforce that. In fact, we have guys from a major metropolitan police department with highly restrictive gun control laws that said, hey, we don't enforce it. No. We have officer discretion.
Yeah, that's a part of nullification, actually. You know, if you're going to nullify unjust laws, there's a lot of ways to do it, and officer discretion is one of those ways to nullify it. You can judicial, prosecutorial, you know, law enforcement, all those can nullify unjust laws.
So I've received, you wouldn't believe the amount of emails that I've received from law enforcement all across this country, from one coast to the other and everywhere in between. Chiefs, sheriffs, troopers, officers from major police departments that say, hey, we're with you. We support the Second Amendment. This isn't going to happen on our watch. We will actively arrest any officer that tries to enact the gun control in our presence. And so there's these guys out there, but they need to know that they got our support, and they also need to know that citizens are not just going to lay down and accept this kind of subpar behavior from law enforcement. And I would challenge law enforcement in this country, and I know I've got a lot of law enforcement watches this video. Listen, you guys need to make a choice, and you need to either support and defend the Constitution and protect citizens' rights, or you choose to violate those. And here's the deal. If you choose to violate those, you are an enemy of freedom, you're an enemy to the Constitution, you are no countryman of ours, and furthermore, history will look upon you with shame and contempt.
I mean, all the people that you roll this out to, whether they're a prosecutor, a judge, states, law enforcement officers, legislators, whoever, they have to know that if they do what they're supposed to do, you know, they uphold their oath, we're good, we've got your back, and we'll support you. And, you know, that's what the, American process of government should be about. Of, the limited government, you support those people that are in office if they uphold their oaths and uphold the constitutions. That's all well and good. If they don't, here's what we're going to do. The nullification is a big thing. Also make it very clear. If, you're going to violate people's rights, then you may and will be subject to civil or criminal penalties for violating people's rights. It has to be. And that's what's going to have to take place. But roll that out. Talk to those entities that we've discussed, the law enforcement officers, prosecutors, even if you want to include judges and legislators in there, that's all well and good. Feel them out, ask them how they view this, and get a very clear understanding of that. And also, hey, I'm happy to hear what you said, that you're for that, then I'm going to back you in your endeavors and, keep constitutionally minded officials in office doing what they're supposed to do in a limited government that we have. But, step by step, I think the sanctuary movements are important because they set the stage and they show the facts. One of the first steps is usually outrage, which we've seen. The next is civil disobedience typically, and we're seeing that with the good souls in Colorado, New York State, Connecticut, New Jersey, that just refuse to comply. And civil disobedience does come with a threat of criminal action against you, but okay, which is it going to be, But they are exercising civil disobedience, like very good examples in the past throughout our history, and they are not going to go along with totalitarian governments that are happy to seize constitutionally protected items from private citizens and subjugate them from citizens into vassals of the state.
Yep. Living example right here of a person living in a deep blue state, not only stopping further infringement on the Second Amendment, but going on the offensive and turning the corner. Almost 60% of the counties in Illinois have decided to nullify gun control. I want you to think about that. 60, and this happened within the last year.
Right.
Within 1 year's time, this has happened and taken place. It can be done, but it takes committed, devoted individuals, local individuals. Nobody else can fight your battles for you. It takes committed local people at an individual and grassroots level to do this. You did all this without an organization backing you.
Oh, it was done on like a cell phone. I typed out an email, communicated back and forth by text and email, and that was it. You know, it was a grassroots thing. Yeah. You know, you look at Otis McDonald, Rhonda Ezell, you know, all those folks up there in Chicago that they're not going to apologize. They're not going to submit. They're going to dig their heels in, and they're going to keep going. You know, Otis passed a while back. Great, really nice guy. Met him a couple times at some rallies. You know, it chokes me up just thinking about he's gone, but there is a modern civil rights legend in our times that, you know, recently passed, and Rhonda's picking that up from there.
Had the courage to fight for his Second Amendment in Chicago, and won. And won. Folks, if you found the information in this video helpful, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to come out and get some training on those firearms that are going to help preserve our freedom for generations to come, head on out to Valor Ridge. We can spool you up in short order. This is Reid Henrichs of Valor Ridge reminding you, the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.